When we talk of reparation, what do we have as Africa to hold the global north to account? We might think we have nothing, and we feel weak when we ask for compensation for things that were done wrong to us. And while we deal with reparations for the global north and all the colonial masters that did the wrongs that they did to Africa, the continent of Africa, whose families probably are going to forget if we don't bring this history up and deal with it decisively. Have countries been compensated for reparation? Yes. Germany paid reparation to the Holocaust victims, their heirs, and the State of Israel. Germany also paid reparations to Namibia for the Herero-Nama genocide. Well, it's documented that they did, and if they didn't, then I guess we have to look into that as well, because there were discussions, very deep discussions on reparation for Namibia. What I know is that when we feel weak as a continent, we will never be able to get what we deserve, because we are already going to the table as people who are weak. But is Africa weak? Everybody talks about Africa as this continent with all the raw materials that the West wants. They want our minerals, they want our youth, they want our agricultural products, they want a lot. Even right now, when it comes to saving the globe, Africa is seen to be the least in terms of emissions, 4%, and yet it's suffering the biggest brunt when it comes to climate change. So what do we have that can actually bring them to their knees? We have the debt. The debt that they have given us at very high prices, very high interest rates. It's another form of colonialism that I think Africa should sit together and be united on that front. When it comes to our minerals, they cannot run their countries without our minerals. But are we prepared as the continent of Africa? And this is the challenge to the new leadership. Are we prepared to actually sit on the same table, put our differences aside, and recognize that we'll first need to address the various wars that we have in our continent? We need to silence the guns. DRC, we say it's the breadbasket of Africa. It has the minerals to sustain Africa, but yet we sit and watch the DRC crumble. We've got the Sudan, okay? And we've got so many other places that we know in Africa. The guns need to be silenced, but not only silence. We need to come with a unity of purpose, a unity that Africa speaks with one voice, that all the leaders put their differences aside and remember that they are brothers. Irrespective of our religious backgrounds, irrespective of our tribes, irrespective of our gender, we need to come together with one agenda. And what is that one agenda? To make sure that Africa gets the reparation that it needs. And the only way we're going to do that is through unity of purpose. The prosperity of Africa depends on our unity. Are we prepared to be unified as a continent to be able to take what is rightfully ours in terms of reparation? Thank you, Madam President.
Which is a functioning social contract. That is between the state and its citizens. Where a crime is committed, people agree on the policing of that, how you investigate it, how you hold accountable. One of the most fundamental corruptions of the social contract in human history is colonialism. Yep. And it's that mechanism that some states have used to extract resources from other places, such as Sierra Leone. That deprives countries of the resources they need for government services, for education, for health. So I was hoping you could reflect a little bit on what those forces have done to Sierra Leone and what kind of accountability we might be able to think about, just to imagine a way forward from where we've begun now.
When you look at what Sierra Leone have to offer, when it comes to our mineral resources, the kind of mineral resources we have in our country is enough to take care of everybody in that country. We should not have a single poor person in Sierra Leone. But unfortunately, we are not given the free will to make decisions on our own mineral resources. There's always Big Brother who decides. And when you fight and say, no, we are not going to do this, they use the system to stop you. It's either they set you up with the opposition and they will be supporting the opposition against you from the back, or they cause unnecessary chaos in your country so that you are not able to even govern your own people. They will do things to make you not to be functionable. And of course, any country that don't have peace cannot develop. You have to have peace before you talk about development. I'll give you a simple example about Sierra Leone. Every mining company that is in Sierra Leone today is owned by a foreigner. Every mining company. If it's not the Chinese, it's the American, it's the British. Our electricity, Bumuda, is run by the British. And we still don't have light. We're looking for light. Electricity. If you don't have electricity, how can you talk about education? How can you talk about health facility? How can you talk about improving the infrastructure of your country? We don't have electricity. Now, do we actually even have proper water? Pipe-borne water, so that our kids will not be sick? We don't have those facilities. Why? With all the minerals we have, there is a cap you put. Before my husband became the president of Sierra Leone was benefiting, they said, what's the word? 0.000.1%. What is that? Basically, a company can take as much as $100 million out of the country in terms of minerals, and then they can just give the country $10,000. Now, what will $10,000 do for our health system? What is $10,000 do for our educational system? And these are the things I believe that are stopping Africa from progressing. We don't have a say. The sense about us celebrating independence, I don't know why we celebrate independence, because we are not free. That is my own take. I'm not speaking also on behalf of the government of Sierra Leone, nor am I speaking on behalf of His Excellency the President. I am speaking as Fatima, as a citizen of a country who believes that things need to change.
Thank you, Chairperson. I greet all young people in this house, those who are watching at home on television, on their gadgets. I greet all the members of the NCOP, the leadership of the EFF led by the Commander-in-Chief, Julius Sello Malema, commissars of the EFF and our esteemed ground forces who have kept the candle burning in the wind, not tiring or flinching and calling for economic freedom in our lifetime. It is moments like these and debates like this one that remind us how impactful the EFF has been in South African and global political discourse. It took the EFF coming into parliament in 2014 for the conversation on land and expropriation of land without compensation to be debated and conversations of economic liberation to be driven. It was the EFF that reminded the people of this nation that colonial conquest was never reversed in the supposed new democratic dispensation that was ushered in 1994 and still hasn't been 3 decades later. Never in our history must we allow to be told that the civil rights that came with 1994 equal to economic liberation. It took the June 16 movement and the birth of the EFF Students' Command in the year 2015 at the University of Limpopo to revitalize the call for free, quality, and decolonized education in our lifetime. Furthermore, it took the mighty EFF and its student command to be born for the struggle for insourcing to finally give birth to actual insourcing in institutions of higher learning, municipalities, and most recently in the city of Ekurhuleni, where 700 workers are finally being insourced and their dignity restored. Thank you very much, EFF. Young people in South Africa are correct to place their weight behind the economic freedom fighters in this era of the revolution, as the EFF has been unwavering in amplifying the voices of young people, regardless of where they come from or who their parents may be. We do not once imagine that the validation for the economic emancipation movement will ever come from these chambers, no. But that will never mean that we become silenced to an extent that we are unable to take stock of our own influence and efforts in South Africa and African political discourse as the economic freedom fighters. We are the true heirs of the struggle for economic emancipation in Africa. It took our chance over many years that are protected by the Constitutional Court to summon the captains of the establishment and their puppets who run government today to face the scathing truth of the racial divide they have failed to thin over 3 decades of their leadership. President Ramaphosa has to be validated by Rupert, as the black youth are simply not enough to be listened to. The Ruperts, the Oppenheimers and the like are still the owners of our means of production, who have the audacity to go to America and plead for a Starlink that the youth of this country did not ask for. The cohorts that rose to power in 1994 and remained there to date have not led us anywhere. They have not responded to the premise of our suffering as young people to date. They have not given us land, free and decolonized education, and they definitely have not given us, the youth of this nation, jobs. Their answer to our suffering, to our qualifications that hang on our walls whilst we are unemployed, is that we deserve 350 rand per month. Money that they themselves do not even notice when it leaves their bank accounts. That is what they think that we deserve as the youth of South Africa. It has become apparent that the comrades of Tambo, whether they wear green, blue or yellow, will never dignify the cries of the youth with tangible change that will see the wealth of this country being shared amongst us and not limited to one race and a few token blacks like Petrus Motsepe and Cyril Ramaphosa. It is the EFF that got President Mr. Jacob Zuma to pay back the money spent on non-security related upgrades at his homestead in Gandla. It is the EFF that is fighting Pala and the sealed bank statements that have proof of our still captured states. It is the EFF that held a successful national shutdown on the 20th of March in 2023 to demand a stable supply of electricity and the resignation of President Cyril Ramaphosa. It is the EFF that effectively led a political process that stopped the Gupta criminal syndicate.
Sorry, a little bit. Please, let us not drown the speaker. We might not agree with what she's saying, but she has got a right to say it in this house. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Chairperson. It is the EFF that effectively led a political process that stops the Gupta criminal syndicate from running the country's government and key state-owned companies. It is the EFF that proposed the National Health Amendment Bill, which was to ensure that all clinics in South Africa open 24 hours and 7 days a week, and all parties in this house rejected that bill. The EFF called for the ban of alcohol advertisement bill, which will end the celebration and promotion of alcohol consumption in South Africa. However, the government of the day pays no business to the scourge of substance abuse in our communities, because you would rather an intoxicated youth than the one that takes you head on your failures and your incompetence. We called for the Bank's Amendment Bill, which will lead to the creation of a state-owned bank. We call for the nationalization of South African Reserve Bank, which will discontinue private ownership of the central bank. We call for student debt relief bill, which will cancel all student debt in institutions of higher learning. We used our parliamentary participation to table motions which will sought to achieve the provision of free education for the poor at higher education level, which was rejected by the ruling party. An increase in minors' salaries, and improvement of their working conditions. The repealing of all apartheid legislations and laws that continue to govern South African society. Nationalization of banks and changing how state-owned companies are managed. And we made a submission on illicit financial flows, tax avoidance and base erosion in Parliament, as well as to SARS and the Davis Tax Committee. The EFF led and supported land occupation programs, which resulted in residential land being given to many landless people in all the provinces. Some miraculously then appeared in this house and cited a misguided sense of ethics and morality to retort our active revolution of land restitution, whilst they themselves put their heads to sleep on stolen land here in the Western Cape. We provide this account of some amongst the many efforts of the EFF to expose the lie that we need 300 years to undo the terror of 300 years of colonization before young people in this country taste economic freedom in our lifetime. This house is filled with solutions that have been provided by the EFF. It is not solutions that we no longer need, but political will to address the multi-layered poverty that young people face in this country. Make it compulsory for all government departments to spend nothing less than 50% of their budget on youth development and upliftment. Amend the PFMA Act to make it compulsory for national and provincial state-owned entities to procure 40% of all goods from firms and producers, of whom 50% are owned and controlled by the youth. Give a monthly seeking job allowance to youth who are actively seeking employment in South Africa. Review the appointment of the NYDA board to make it independent and free from political interference. In that way, when we report that there are people in the NDYA who seek bribes from our brothers and sisters before providing assistance, you will act without reservation. Ensure that a minimum of 50% of our minerals are locally beneficiated. Eradicate dependence on the private sector by taking away the tender system and gradually building state capacity. These are some of the many solutions that we have consistently presented in this house since the year 2014. The ANC and the DA can no longer claim ignorance. The youth of Khayelitsha, of Nyanga, Beleng, Tembisa, Davidson, Mamilori, Soshanguve, Takile, Tiazenzela, Kwapa, Njubu Shokong Sesheku, Tanini Toyando, Butumelong Borolelo, Akisanang must know that the government of the day refuses to empower them. The only political vehicle that has the capacity to provide solutions and the vigor to implement those solutions is the economic freedom fighters. To address race-based inequality, land dispossession, and a select few in our means of production. I thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are around the world. Today I just want to give you some glimpse of this powerhouse, woman powerhouse, the strong woman in Africa who can stand their ground and face the politics of Africa. You know, I've been listening to these three women, how they speak, how confident they speak, how they see Africa, how they see West, how they see the abuse of our mineral resources in Africa. When we have leaders, male leaders, who should take this on and make sure that the minerals that we have in Africa benefit the African population. There's one thing I want to talk about the minerals of Africa. Most of us in Africa, maybe we are not we are not exposed to the outside world to understand exactly about the minerals, exactly what is really happening. I just want to say a little bit of what is happening with the minerals. You know, overseas, you will find that people overseas, they've got free health, they have benefits, they have all these kind of things. And it's easy to get job when you're overseas. That's why our people, they end up running to overseas. Some, they are being swallowed by rivers, seas, eaten by crocodiles, wherever they don't even reach their destiny, trying to get to the green pastures. Let me say this about the green pastures that people always think it's green overseas. I don't think it is green overseas, as they say, but it is a little bit green. But coming from Africa, with all the qualifications that you have, trying to go overseas, it's not everybody who will be successfully from Africa coming overseas, because most people, they start with a garbage job and try to, because the racism thing, it doesn't matter where you are overseas, you will still experience it. It's not only in America, it's not only in England, it's not only in France, it's not in Netherlands. Everywhere overseas, racism, as long as you have a black skin, racism, you will see it, you will taste it. And you must understand when you go overseas, it's not easy. They structured their systems that in one way or the other, you cannot easily penetrate on their system. You have to go procedural. I have seen some of our South African Boers, Afrikaners, that have gone to US, thinking leaving South Africa, they will find the green pastures. Let me say this about those who have just left to US through Donald Trump. It's not going to be easy. You know, when they were in Africa, those white Afrikaners, they used to have maids in their house. They used to rob them and pay them peanuts. They had good life, living in big houses. For them, it was easy to get a job. It's not like that overseas. Overseas, it doesn't matter whether you're white or what. You will sweep the street if you're not qualified for a certain job. Because even if you're qualified for that job, you have to go through tests. It's not just easy that you jump in. There's so much restrictions. It's only for nurses. I've realized, like in England, they easily nurses from Africa. There are some countries in Africa whereby when you're a nurse, you easily go into the field of nursing. But some countries like Canada, you have to restart your course again, polish up before, because I've seen even doctors in some other countries overseas, people complaining that they came as doctors, they end up driving taxis. There's a lot that is going on overseas. Most of our people, it's like what they see in TV. It's not exactly what they see in TV. But let me come back to the mineral resources. When you see a truck loading those mineral resources from Africa to the seaport, you should cry, or you should face your government and ask them why. Because sending those mineral resources, as these women are complaining about a lot of things that is happening, this is powerhouse, the woman powerhouse. They are brave enough to stand. There's so many women who are so powerful. But I just picked those three. And I remember the one for Namibia, President for Namibia, has put her foot down that no minerals will go out of the country. Everything should be processed in the country before it go out, because by processing the minerals in your country, you are creating jobs for your own people. And as you don't sell the raw material, processing it at home, it will make the country prosper, because there's a lot of revenue that you will make when you sell a finished product than selling a product that is not finished. I think that somebody will understand what I mean. So when these products come overseas, they will receive it. They have got different plans of whatever product that is being brought from Africa. They will process it up to the finished product. Once it's a finished product, then they will resell it back to Africa. You will get it expensive, but it was from your own country. Because our government, we don't hold them accountable to make sure that all the mineral resources that we have in our country, they are of value. They can create jobs. They can create a lot of jobs for all our poor people, and they can easily make a lot of revenue for the country, so that it will boost the infrastructure and everything. Why our government are not bringing investors to process the products in our own country, in our own terms, not this product that will be sent overseas, creating jobs, giving the people from overseas who call Africa shitholes and all this. They are benefiting more. That's why all the people who leave Africa and come overseas, they come overseas following their minerals, and they are being paid by their own minerals that have left their country, and they come and sweep the street and get peanuts and work in the nursing home, factories, different kind of places. But at the end of the day, you are being paid by your own minerals that left your country and you went overseas. What does that mean? So I like this powerhouse of a woman here who always stand up, and I wish things can change in Africa and women given power. I think women can run our countries in Africa very differently. I know of one president in Africa who is doing very well. In a short period of time, the one from Burkina Faso, he is doing well, and his age is in his side. Another president that I know that is doing well in Africa is Paul Kagame. From genocide 30 years ago, and the country where it is, compared to our country, South Africa, when you compare Rwanda and South Africa, fine, Rwanda is a small country, but where they come from, genocide 30 years ago, when you from nothing to what the country is today, that shows that the country has a leader. I don't care how they can call him a dictator, Paul Kagame, but the fact that the people in Rwanda are benefiting, and the president has done a lot for that country. So family, I just brought this video to you just to understand a little bit, and I like the powerhouse of this woman and the way they're so confident in everything they're saying, and it is true. So what do you think? What is your opinion? Drop your own comment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ngithanda nonke ngothanduluka la. Ngithini bantu bakithi noma izindlu zodaka kusekhaya la, kusekhaya lapha, kusekhaya la, noma ngabe izindlu zodaka. Bravo, bravo, bravo.